How far would you go to fulfill your dream? Would you study harder? Would you work harder? Would you train harder? But would you even break the law? Good evening everyone and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Pain Rant, series in which I try to make a living out of my 2 degrees in criminology in a creative way. Today we are going to talk about an anime in which the fulfilling of dream is the core element of the narration. An anime that, alongside my need for external validation, has been a constant in my life. Profound and seemingly eternal, today we're talking of course about One Piece. But before we continue, if you enjoyed what you have been doing so far and want to support me and this channel, leave a like, a comment, subscribe and maybe hit the notification bell. It would be much appreciated. Let me start with this premise. I am a huge fan of One Piece. I have been a fan of the anime since I was a little kid. I've been collecting the manga since I was 14 years old. And it's here, right now, complete edition, volume from 1 to 108. I am very proud. I have all the variants, I have all the external useless chapters. I love One Piece. I think it does an incredible job in making the reader immerse into the story, and it's able to deal with such complex and important thematics in an extremely engaging way. I do have some reserves against One Piece, and I will not just start deep diving to the fact, oh, it's too long, because it's way too long. I'm just saying this because I cannot believe I will be the only one, but my main concern is the manga art style, specifically the fact that it's so I can fly over the fact that it's been 26 years on the air, because the story is absolutely magnificent, but what I cannot stand is the way in which the drawings are made, specifically after the Skypiea arc. What at the beginning, One Piece's arc was goofy and fun and elastic in terms of angle used in the panel, after the Skypiea arc everything became more convoluted, over detailed, and the angle used in the panel started to become static, which overall make the whole experience in reading One Piece to me extremely unpleasant. This tangent aside, One Piece is an absolute masterpiece. Its value and impact on pop culture is absolutely undeniable, and Oda, with its incredible attention to detail, deserved to be awarded, making One Piece an absolute must-watch. Not really. But what is One Piece about? You literally have to be living under a rock for the past 27 years to not know what One Piece is about, but again I did this session for every single other video, so I will not stop now. Written and illustrated since 1997, I would like to point this thing out, 1997, by Eiichiro Oda, One Piece follows the story of Monkey Luffy, 7 years old with a dream of finding the One Piece, the legendary treasure of the mythical pirate called Roger, inheriting his title, becoming the king of the pirates. The story then follows Luffy, moving from a rookie nobody to creating his own crew, the Straw Hats, and rising up to the very pinnacle of the world of piracy. How do we approach One Piece from a criminological perspective? Even if, thanks to its goofy demeanor and its colorful and cheerful appearance, you may forget about it, technically speaking, One Piece is a crime-based manga revolving around the concept of piracy. And in the way in which Oda depicted the piracy aspect of his work, we can tell that that depiction was extremely accurate. We can actually interpret the concept of piracy in One Piece as a response of cultural resistance, making it a significant commentary about societal and governmental injustice. These apply perfectly to the concept I decided to apply to understand a little bit more of the One Piece world, which was offered to us in the article by Dr. Rebecca Simon, The Social Construction of Crime in the Atlantic War, Piracy as a Case Study, in which Dr. Simon explained why during the 17th century sailors decided to abandon the legal job on the ship for a criminal life of piracy. The corruption of the government, the lack of resources, and on the other end the fascination that the general public had for the pirates allowed the sailor to overweight all the negative consequences of committing to a life of crime. The world of piracy was more democratic. There were better resources for the ones on the ships, thanks to the fact that they were stealing said resources. And moreover, pirates were idolized by the general public. Rock star of the 17th century, people were madly in love with pirates, because they represent, with a world of courses, theft and adventure, a perfect contraposition of the Protestant society. Due to the corruption that we see in the One Piece government, we now can understand why people decide to undergo a life of crime and piracy, but I don't want to dwell on that. And in this episode, and this episode only, we will take a little different approach, a little bit more idealistic instead of the more theoretical one, mostly because I really want to mess up with the One Piece fan base. I want to have a little bit of a game. I want to try to understand if and why the Straw Hats actually need to become pirates in order to fulfill their dreams. Starting off, we have our protagonist, the captain, Monkey D. Luffy. For more than 20 years, we believe that his dream and his goal were the same thing. Luffy has been shouting since 1997 that he dreams of becoming the king of the pirates. We don't know what the dream is, but we know by the reaction that everybody had on the ship that Luffy's dream is absolutely crazy. Now, we can understand by the way Luffy behaves that even if we don't know what his actual dream is, that his end goal is to be free, and that aligns in his perspective in becoming king of the pirates. For more than 27 years, Luffy has been stating very vocally that he doesn't want to rule over anybody or anything. From his point of view, being king of the pirates means being the freest person on the planet. We can actually see how Luffy despises any form of government and or restriction, as we can see during the Enies Lobby arc when he wants to declare war against the entirety of the world. Therefore, we can argue that Luffy's final goal is to be free in the broader sense of the word. Luffy doesn't want to be bounded by anything. He just wants to be. And we can tell by the way in which Luffy's behaved that he was never moved by malice or criminal intent. He doesn't want to steal, he doesn't want to hurt people, failing paradoxically in being a pirate. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, does Luffy actually need to be a pirate to be free? And the answer is yes. In the government that we have in One Piece, which is extremely restrictive and controlling, an individual like Luffy, charismatic and so eager to achieve its freedom, represents a danger, represents the perfect contraposition to the status quo. Therefore, Luffy, even if he didn't rationalize his choice, is now following the only path that could allow him to achieve his goal. Sailing under the Jolly Roger is the only way to be free. We now move to Roronoa Zoro, the first mate and swordsman of the Straw Hats. Now, Zoro has, in my opinion, one of the weakest and most straightforward goals of all the crew. He wants to be the strongest swordsman on Earth. Does Zoro need to be a pirate to fulfill his dream? The answer is absolutely no. Aside for the devotion and respect that Zoro has for Luffy, he has absolutely no reason whatsoever to become a pirate. I can even argue that for Zoro, joining the Straw Hats is taking further and further from his actual goal, because he wants to be the strongest swordsman, and in doing so he needs to be strong enough to defeat the current strongest swordsman, Dracapult Mihawk. We do understand from Zoro's backstory that he took the sea hoping to find Mihawk, challenging and defeating him, and the only reason why he actually met Mihawk was by pure accident. Zoro would have a better chance to achieve his dream if he was part of the law enforcement. If he joined the Marine, he would have an easier access to Dracapult Mihawk, because for the vast majority of the story, Mihawk was part of the military. Therefore, if Zoro joined the Marine force, he would have an easier access to Mihawk, getting one step closer to achieve his dream. Moving on, we have Nami, and our beloved navigator has a specific and very clear dream. She wants to draw the map of the world. Technically speaking, Nami's goal is extremely legitimate and legal. She simply wants to draw a world map. And if we follow that line, if we ask ourselves, should Nami be a pirate to achieve her goal? The answer is absolutely no. There is no reason on earth why she would just turn to a life of crime if her goal is to be a cartographer. I can even argue that, as it was for Zoro's case, Nami would have a better chance to fulfill her dream if she joined the Marine force. The Marine had better equipment, the chance to travel freely throughout the Grand Line, giving to her the chance to see more of the world in a safer way. Moving on, we have Usopp, the Sniper King, and Usopp's dream is to be a brave warrior of the sea. What does that mean? Nobody knows. In the manga, we arrived in Elbaf, the land of the giants, that has been the dream of Usopp since Little Garden. So maybe we will get some in-depth analysis of what being a brave warrior of the sea is. But up until now, we don't know what that means. Your guess is as good as mine. Does Usopp need to be a pirate? Maybe. We don't know what that means, so flip a coin. It's fine by me. We move now to Vinsmoke Sanji, the reason why I decided for 10 years that I wanted to be a chef, and my favorite characters of the chef-ish. It's a tough line to walk. I do think that Sanji is an incredibly cool and well-written character, but it's pervy trope, it's so difficult to read, it's so annoying, it's so out of place. I really wish that Oda would have toned it down, but apparently this is not the case for Sanji. Now, Sanji's dream is to find the legendary Old Blue, a legendary portion of the sea in which he said that fishes from all around the globe can be found, making it the only land for any chef. As it happened for Zoro and Nami, Sanji's dream seems very legitimate. There are no evidences that the world government is making any form of regulation or law that prevent people to look for this specific portion of the ocean. So as it was for both Zoro and Nami, I will argue that Sanji doesn't need to be a part to fulfill his dream. On the other hand, following the previous examples, he would have a better choice in finding the Old Blue if it was enrolled into the Marine Force, due to the fact that they can travel freely throughout the Grand Line. We move on now to Tony Chopper, the doctor of the Straw Hats. And Chopper's dream is extremely clear and so good-hearted that there is no way it's criminal. Chopper just wants to cure people. He wants to be able to cure every single illness and disease of the world. And unless there is some kind of big pharma in the world of One Piece that prevents Doctor to find cure for different illnesses, Chopper has no reason whatsoever to become a pirate. Maybe he would have a better chance and better resources to achieve his goal if he was part of the Marine Force. And we arrive to Nico Robin, the demon child of O'Hara. Nico Robin's dream is to find an answer to the Void Century, a portion of history that the government specifically forbid to study. Because of that, Nico Robin is the first member of the Straw Hat, alongside Luffy, that needs to be a pirate to fulfill her dream. Her goal and aspiration is openly prohibited by the world government. It wants to control, erase and rewrite history. Because of that, Nico Robin's desire for the truth is in open clash with the status quo. And to achieve her goal, she has no other option, no other path than dedicating herself to a life of crime. We now go to Frankie. Frankie is the character I enjoy the least out of the Straw Hats, but yeah, let's do it. Frankie, as the carpenter of the crew, has a unique dream. He wants to be able to build a ship so perfect that he will be able to navigate every sea of the world. As it happened for the vast majority of the characters so far, Frankie's dream appears to be extremely legal and legitimate. There is no reason whatsoever for him to rationally join a pirate crew. He would have better resources if he joined the Marine Force, since they can already navigate safely throughout the Grand Line. The reason why Frankie doesn't do that is because of his personal past. And I do agree. Psychologically speaking, I do agree to the fact that Frankie doesn't trust the government. Therefore, I would say, even though rationally speaking, Frankie doesn't have any reason whatsoever to become a pirate, emotionally, I will accept it. Moving on, we have Brook, one of my favorite characters of the show thanks to its devastating backstory. Even if we don't know why Brook took sea in the first place when he was young and technically alive, we do understand that now Brook's goal is to reconnect to his pet whale Laboon, the last remaining companion of his original crew. Brook's dream is extremely legal. There is absolutely nothing wrong in wanting to reconnect with your own pet. Moreover, Brook already knows where Laboon is. It's at the beginning of the Grand Line. I do understand that he wants to follow Luffy out of respect, out of friendship and out of devotion, because Luffy was the one that saved him. But to fulfill his goal, his dream, Brook doesn't need to be a pirate anymore at all. And we now arrive to the latest addition to the Straw Hats, Jinbei, the first son of the sea. Former warlord, Jinbei is the most disappointing new addition to the crew in my opinion, because he moved from being an incredibly deep and profound character, a mentor for Luffy that used to fight for the injustice that were bashing all over its people, fighting against the government for the structural discrimination toward the fishermen. But while during his past he was fighting for freedom and equality, the moment he joined the Straw Hats, his dream became less defined. We don't know why Jinbei specifically wants to be a pirate anymore. We don't know if he has his own personal and specific goal. The only thing we know is that he wants to support Luffy in its pursuit of the One Piece. He wants to be able to help Luffy becoming king of the pirates. Considering the helping Luffy as his dream, we do technically have to ask ourselves, does Jinbei need to be a pirate to achieve his goal? The answer is yes, absolutely. What Luffy is trying to achieve is absolutely illegal. It's against every normal regulation of the world government. And the fact that Jinbei wants to support this kind of criminal path makes Jinbei a criminal too. Therefore, Jinbei needs to be a pirate. In conclusion, we have to consider Vivi. And I'm doing this because I do love Vivi and I can't wait for her to come back to the crew. To me, she's still and will always be part of the Straw Hats. While we do know that Vivi's goal is to be a great ruler of her country, a great princess and great queen for Alabasta, we do understand that the reason why she joined the Straw Hat, even if for a brief moment of time, was to have a chance to fight back Crocodile, which at the time was part of the warlords and therefore was part of the government. Since Vivi was openly going against the war government at the time, she had no other other choice result to a life of piracy. So, even if it was for a brief moment of time, Vivi needed to be a pirate. And now you have it. You know, this time not that much more about criminology, but a little bit more about One Piece as a product. We understood how, in a tyrannical and despotic government, piracy can be seen as a critique and contraposition towards society. We also understood a little bit better the motivation of our protagonists, and whether if they should or shouldn't devote to a life of crime. But what do you think? Do you think my analysis was correct, or are other elements should have been applied? Please let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed what we're doing today, what we did so far, also leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any new updates. And if you want to hear me ranting on a semi-daily basis, don't forget also to check the social media accounts as TikTok, Instagram, Rednote, and the second I find out how, Spotify. So thanks again for joining me, and up until next time, have a nice rest of the evening.